Have you ever wondered whether a city is truly fair just because past hospitals, schools, or banks appeared on the map? Two people can live in the same city but experience completely different cities. One person may have many places to go, many people to meet, and the ability to stay safe during a crisis. The other may have fewer choices, fewer connections, and fewer ways to avoid risk. Even something as simple as being able to stay home during a pandemic can reveal inequality. This is actually what this paper is about, using human mobility data to understand the inequalities people actually experience in urban life. In this video, I will explain this paper through 5 questions. First, what was the old way of thinking? Second, how do the authors redefine the problem? Third, what methods do they use? Fourth, what mechanisms do they review? And fifth, why this paper matters. Let's start with the first question. What was the old way of thinking? Traditionally, urban inequality has often been studied through maps. Researchers look at where people live, whether neighborhoods are segregated, and how close communities are to parks, hospitals, schools, and public transport. This way of thinking is useful because resource distribution does matter. But it has one limitation. A map can tell us where resources are located, but it cannot tell us whether people actually use them. For example, having a park nearby your home does not always mean that you truly benefit from that park. Maybe the route feels unsafe, maybe you are too busy to go, maybe transportation is inconvenient, or maybe the space simply does not feel welcoming. So the old approach often measures potential assets, but not the lived experience. The second question is, how do the author redefine the problem? The authors shift the question from where the resource located to what do people actually experience. They call this idea experience of urban inequality. This means that inequality is not only about where you live or what exists near your home. It is about where you actually go, who you meet, what service you really use, and whether you have choices when a crisis happens. For example, during a pandemic, some people can work from home, order groceries online, and reduce their travel. But the others still have to commute, working in person, using public transport, and expose themselves to risk. So, the ability to reduce movement is not just a personal choice, it can also reflect inequality. The third question is, what methods do authors use? The authors turn the human mobility data into a network of people, places, and time. Imagine one side of the network is people and the other side is the places. These places can be parks, restaurants, schools, and so on. If a person visits a place at a specific time, we draw a connection between that person and that place. For example, if a person A goes to a restaurant and the person B also goes to the same restaurant at a similar time, we can see a possible opportunity for social contact. If one community visits many times of the place, while another community visits fewer places, we can compare their access to urban resources. And if a pandemic or storm happens, we can compare mobility before and after the shock to see who can reduce the movement and who cannot. So, the key idea is simple. Mobility data is not just about checking movement. it helps us to understand opportunity, contract, access, and risks. The fourth question is, what mechanisms do the author review? The paper highlights three important mechanisms. The first is social mixing. Segregation is not only about where people live, it also happens in daily movement. If people mostly visit places connected to similar income social groups, then their everyday world remains segregated, even if they travel across the city. In other words, urban segregation is not only about who lives near whom, it's also about who meets whom in the daily life. The second mechanism is place access. A resource being nearby does not mean it is actually used. For example, the paper shows that some communities may have parks within research, but it still have lower real-world park visits. This tells us that spatial access and actual access are not the same thing. A city may look fair on the map, but people's real behavior may reveal hidden barriers. The third mechanism is adaptability during the crisis. During the COVID-19, wealthier neighborhoods were often able to reduce the mobility more sharply. Poor communities, however, often have to keep the movement for work, food, transport, and basic needs. This shows that the ability to stay home, avoid exposure, and change daily routine is not equally shared. So, mobility data can reveal whom has more choice, whom and who carries more risk. The fifth question is, why does this paper matter? This paper matters because it changed how we think about the urban fairness. A fair city is not only a city where resources exist on the map, but a fair city is the one where different groups can actually research, use, and benefit from those resources in real life. The paper shifts urban inequality from a map-based problem to a behavioral problem. It also shifts urban inequality from a statistic problem to a dynamic problem, because people's lives change every day. Cities change every day, and crises like pandemics, storms, disasters can quickly expose who is protected and who is vulnerable. So, the main takeaway is the urban fairness is not just exist near your home. It is about where you can actually go, whom you can meet, and what resources you can use, and whether you have freedom to protect yourself when danger comes. Thank you so much.